Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another session of Cyber Conversations. I'm Kanti. I'm the director for the Cyber Institute. Today with me, I have Catherine Hoyer, who's a fantastic cyber leader. And I also have a very special guest, Janice Sanders. Janice is a security engineer. She helps detect, defend, and implement solutions to protect against cyber attacks. She is constantly searching out and learning the growing and changing attack surface. She's very devoted to continued learning and research on the latest security issues and security solutions to contribute value to any organization. She has been a lifelong learner and so very adaptable, very teachable, and she is a former English school teacher who initially thought technology and cybersecurity were out of her reach. And her cybersecurity journey started by self-studying and then attending about 8 weeks of free cybersecurity training. At that point, she pivoted from teaching to cybersecurity analyst, and then from a security analyst to a security engineer. She also gives back to the community in two ways. One is to the general community for students with anything related to career changes is Teach2Geek, and to the military community as a military spouse, an organization called Federati. Janice, thank you so much for being here with us. We so appreciate it. You have the floor.
Thank you so much to both of you. Again, this is an honor to be able to just come and contribute in partnership with you all at Cyber and what you're doing, the initiative to, inspire young girls to eventually, pique their interest and potentially pursue a career in cybersecurity. So definitely privileged to be here today. As Kanti said, I am a security engineer currently working at Coalfire. And just a small disclaimer that anything shared today are the opinions and thoughts of my own. They're not associated with Coalfire in any way. But I am a security engineer currently focusing on vulnerability management at the moment, and love what I do. My journey has been a very exciting yet challenging journey. And as Kanti mentioned, I actually started off as a school teacher. I taught in education for over 10 years. Loved it, loved working with students. I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So thousands of middle schoolers that, crossed my path, and it was a pleasure. And then I started to just venture out and actually began self-studying and picked up a Security Plus book and just started. During the day, I would work as a school teacher, and at night, I would just start self-studying and reading. And I was preparing myself to take a certification exam with no knowledge, no background in tech. It was just something that I wanted to do, and I set out to do it. And I actually found a free boot camp in our area, and I took that boot camp. It was 8 weeks long. And by the end of that boot camp, I think I was more confused than when I went into the boot camp. And I'll kind of talk a little bit about that more on later on. But by the end of the boot camp, I remember one of my coaches in that boot camp telling me, it doesn't matter if you're not prepared. It doesn't matter if you don't feel ready. What he told me is, I want you to start applying for jobs. And I was very hesitant because I like to feel prepared and I like to feel ready when I'm doing something. And neither of those were the case, but I took his advice and I literally revamped my entire resume, revamped my entire LinkedIn, and made them appealing to employers or recruiters in the cybersecurity or tech industry. So I pretty much took transferable skills and made sure to translate those, how they would be received for recruiters or hiring managers. And in doing that, I started just spamming my resume, something that was totally out of my comfort zone, but I was putting it on Indeed and putting it on Dice and, on LinkedIn, looking for different roles that would be a good fit for entry level. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to put in my notice. So December 2020, I put in my notice as a teacher. The pandemic was at its height during that time. And so there were some issues in my household that really made me make that decision. My husband encouraged me and backed me. My children backed me. And so as a family, it was a family decision. I put in my notice as a teacher and was applying for roles. And then literally within, I would say, a month, I was getting bites from my resume and interviewing with people, and had landed my first cybersecurity role within 2 months. So December 2020 to February 2021, I was working at my first role in cybersecurity, all starting from self-studying with a cybersecurity book, and doing 8 weeks of foundational knowledge from that boot camp. So the transition for me was a smooth one. I hear others say how their transition is like super challenging. They tell them, hey, you need to plan for a year out of work, or a year of at least seeking for a role before you transition. That was not my story. My story was, I put in the work. I was, working as a teacher during the day, studying at night. And within a short few months, I had actually started working as a security analyst. That's how I started off. So it was an exciting journey. I think what I loved mostly was probably the fact that I no longer had to wake up early and go to school and then stay late and work 50 to 60 hours a week, grading papers and doing curriculums and developing, the lesson plans for the weeks and months out. But I was waking up at home and working from home. All the remote opportunities that are available in cybersecurity was something that completely interested me. I actually, our children are homeschooled. So while I'm working remotely at home, my children are also working remotely at home, and they're being homeschooled. So it affords me that privilege of being here with them, being available, being present, which was a huge concern of mine when I was teaching. So what I thought was out of my reach before, because I didn't have a background in cybersecurity. I wasn't interested at a really, really young age in tech. However, I became interested when I saw that my children were interested. My children, I would put them in robotics classes at school that they weren't offered when I was in school, but they're offered now. Those resources and those platforms, those opportunities are available even more so now, and they're more common than they were, when I went to grade school. And so I would put them in robotics, and they were in different programs. Even now they're in a program called Ring, and these programs help to spur their interest. And I think from that, I became even more interested. And just in my research, I was like, this is a great opportunity. This is a way to set my family up even for generational wealth if I want to, because the opportunities financially, the salary, moving into cybersecurity, I've more than doubled my salary. So it just opened up opportunities for me, for my family, and I was very appreciative of that. So that's a little bit about how my journey got started. I started again as a security analyst. And as a security analyst, a lot of my work was very fundamental work, monitoring a queue. I would wait for events to come in, and I would determine, do the necessary analysis to determine if those events were false positives or true positives, and if they needed to be escalated. And we would triage them to the necessary departments. I would perform some level of incident response in that role. And if it was beyond out of the scope of my responsibilities, I would triage it, like I mentioned, and it would go to the IR team. And it was a great way to pivot into cybersecurity. They had some, 24 hours, 7/365. A lot of those entry level roles for security analysts are like that. And that's what I did. And I actually enjoyed it. Because I was able to have just there was this peace and solitude of working at night sometimes. Uh, so my schedule rotated. Sometimes I would work during the day, sometimes at night, but I loved it. And I think it gave me a great footing into the industry. Within literally, and I didn't have any certifications when I broke in. Some people say that you have to have certifications. I think if you apply yourself, one thing I did was I had a home lab, very small home lab, nothing extraordinary. And I applied myself with projects. And when I went into these interviews, that is how I would showcase my skills. I didn't have the certifications, but I have skills. This is what I'm doing on my home lab. This is what I've done to volunteer in the community, maybe doing some security awareness training for small organizations in my area or churches in the community. And so being able to speak to those hands-on experiences, they go a very long way. And I think that helped in my pivot. But from there, within, I would say 15 months, I moved into a security engineer role. So currently that has been the role that I have stuck with now. Security engineering, my main focus is vulnerability management. And we just make sure that the cloud environments are up to standards in order to get authorization to operate. So they're offering their services to government agencies in the cloud. So we make sure that those environments meet regulations, that they're compliant and all of that. Vulnerability management, my day consists of lots of research. As a security engineer, it's a lot of figure it out. So one of the things you mentioned is problem solving and analytical skills. Those are huge for security professionals, because a lot of the job is you need to figure it out. You have to be able to go and dig for answers. There may be solutions or security solutions that you need to deploy in environments. You need to know how to go and figure out how to deploy that. And it may be your very first time, but the great thing is you'll have a team on your team. You'll have a team that you can work with to figure it out and make sure that those solutions are deployed correctly. So yeah, that's a lot of what I do. Vulnerability management each day, producing different reports that need to go out for vulnerability management, being able to get a snapshot of the environment to see what risks are out there based on the threats. And it has been a great journey, but I've enjoyed it. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us. It's not, like you'd said, it's not often an easy pivot from another field into cybersecurity, because it takes a while, for you to learn stuff or even get certifications. Some people prefer to get the certifications before they even enter the workforce, because it gives them that added kick with their resume. So
Yeah.
I'm very glad you had a very nice transition into cybersecurity.
Yeah, I think it gives hope to others, because sometimes I have sessions, or I'll have like little mentor sessions with others. And one of the things that I notice is that they often say, that's not what I've been told. I've always been told I need to have the certification to pivot in. I've always been told that it's going to be a challenge, which in many cases it is, and it can be, but it's not always. So I share that to give hope that it's not always. There are opportunities that are just for you, and I think a big part of my transition is having the confidence to know that I'm going to bring value of some sort to an organization. And with that, a lot of companies are willing to train you. You may not have all the skills. We don't all have all the skills. But these organizations, when they see that you're confident, when they see that you have a positive personality, and that you can offer some value of some sort, even if it's team building. In my case, it was, I had a background as an English writing teacher, right? So what I noticed is a lot of organizations struggle with documentation, and they struggle with procedures and having them documented and written out, these policies. And so one of the things I was able to contribute was, as a former writing teacher, I could come in and I can help you write your policies. I can help you write out your operating procedures, so that the next person who comes in, that they're more easily onboarded and trained. And so that's what I noticed, something that I believe caught a lot of recruiters' attention, because it would always be brought up in those interviews. And they'd say, hey, I noticed you were a teacher, I noticed you were a writing teacher. Tell me about that. So I would say the same thing. Whatever you're currently involved in or doing, how can that translate over to what you want to do, the end goal, and just make sure that you can translate it in some way, and that'll give you a footing in. So yeah.
And that is so true. I teach a class called Information Security Management. It's a lot of policy writing, like you just said,
Yeah.
and it's such an underrated part of cybersecurity. Nobody ever talks about how much you have to document stuff or how much your writing skills come into effect there. Cybersecurity, most of the time, to most people, is just very technical, or just, coding away or hacking into something. That soft skills don't register on so many people's, radar, but they are so
Yes.
essential. When you are writing a policy, you need to know what words you need to use. You need to understand how to document a certain procedure. You need to find a way to convey what you are wanting to do in the policy to everybody who reads it. So that is
Absolutely.
awesome.
And that could be the very footing into the industry, so never take for granted if you don't have all the technical skills. Don't take that for granted. I personally didn't have strong technical skills. I think moving into that first and second role, that's when they started to build out more. And I did email security, endpoint security, network security. I've done it like array of areas, covered array of areas. But to get in, sometimes it'll just be that unnoticed area, like documenting the procedures, and you can get a foot in just from being able to do that. So never take those transferable skills for granted.
So we just have a list of some questions that I think our audiences would like to hear from you about. So most
Sure.
of them, I think you have addressed, how you transition into cybersecurity. You've mentioned that, and what your day in your role, in your job role, looks like. Is it mostly just, or is it heavily research focused, or how
Yeah.
does?
So a lot of it, I would say, is research, because I'm always having to figure something out. But the central part of my role consists of creating plans of actions for organizations, so they can have a snapshot of their vulnerabilities in their environments, right? So scanning operating systems, scanning databases, scanning web applications that are stood up in their environment, to get the snapshot of what their environment looks like as far as vulnerabilities are concerned, and then prioritizing those, what needs to be after you identify them, obviously what needs to be addressed first, and presenting this plan of action to customers so that way that is taken care of. And then also there's a certain standard that these environments have to be in when you're offering services to government agencies. And so we make sure that they're meeting those standards, or we work with them, we partner with them to do that. So yeah, a lot of scanning in my day. So utilizing different scanning tools that are out there, like Nessus is out there, Tenable's out there, Burp, having familiarity with that. And then being able to, from there, analyze the vulnerabilities that it detects and present them in a way that, hey, we have a complete plan of action that we want to put in place in order to bring this environment up to par.
So then, so far in cybersecurity, what are some of the challenges that you face, and how have you navigated through those challenges?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say the biggest challenge, because remember, I came from a completely non-tech background, right? And I didn't have any familiarity with, the technical skills needed. And so probably one of the biggest challenging is being able to fill those skills gaps where I lack with the technical skills. Constant learning, which is not necessarily a problem. I love to learn. So I think that's one of the reasons why I became a teacher initially, but then also that translates over very well in cybersecurity. You're always going to be learning because the landscape always changes. There's so many advancements. There's AI that's being introduced. You always have to know that next threat or that next issue. And so in the next tool. So always constantly learning. And sometimes that can pose this unbalanced work-life balance, if that makes sense. Because I'm always wanting to learn. So I can hide away and learn forever. But there's sometimes that can make your work-life balance a little off. So knowing how to balance that is super important. But I would definitely say that's probably one of the challenges. Another would be the very known imposter syndrome that we deal with, especially myself. Not having that background in tech, when I came in, there were just things that, and still just didn't know, right? And sometimes it's hard to say, I don't know that, but I'm learning that there are times where you just have to say, I don't know that, or reach out to someone you feel you can reach out to safely. And ask them, behind the scenes, hey, can you help me with this? I just don't know. After you've done your part, done the research and all that. So imposter syndrome is very real. And then also sometimes feeling as if you have to prove your value. And maybe that's because I'm a woman. Maybe it's because I'm a Black woman. I don't know. But feeling like I have to prove my value in certain circles has definitely been a challenge for me. And then remember, when I pivoted in, I was told to myself, oh, it's going to take you at least a year to get in. Oh, you should take a help desk job, which is fine. We all need help desk, but that wasn't on my roadmap. And so to be told, hey, it's going to take you this long, at least this long, and hey, it's going to, you probably should go in help desk, and then after a couple of years, move into cybersecurity. So those are challenges, having to deal with all of the voices of others when you have a certain roadmap for yourself. So just being, again, confident in what you're purposing to do, and doing it to the best of your ability, and doors will swing wide open. So
that actually creates a nice pivot into my next question. It is about, diversity in the cybersecurity field. Have many of you said, because the field is very technical, Have you ever experienced those kinds of opinions from others where they were, reinforcing that we couldn't be in cybersecurity because we're women?
I have not. I have not, which is great.
Yes.
My story isn't someone else's story. I have been welcomed into the industry, since pivoting in with open arms. And what I hear a lot of is when I do speak up and say, hey, I don't know that. And sometimes the imposter syndrome can come from not only my lack of tech skills background, but also feeling like I'm the only one that looks like me in my circle. And so feeling like if I reach out, they're going to, prejudge, which could just be something that, I'm dealing with in my own mind. But what I noticed is that they've been warm and welcoming. So if I say, hey, I don't know this, and they say, it's okay, I was there once. Here's what I can do to help you. So I don't see all of what everyone else sees, and I'm thankful for my own journey of that. Yeah, it's been encouraging to help me to grow so quickly, I would say, and even being able to move quickly from a security analyst to a security engineer, because most people don't move that quickly, has been because I've been welcomed into the industry.
Again, I am so very glad that your journey so far into cybersecurity has been a very positive one, because it's so hard, when people, even with the imposter syndrome or even without it, it's so hard to break into a new field where, you're just, starting out. So that is amazing that you have such a great experience in the field.
Yeah.
Um,
And I did want to say one, because I heard mention of being able to program and things like that. I think that they definitely help in roles that you want to move into, and it's useful. It's so beneficial, but it's not a must. You don't have to know how to program to pivot into the industry. I didn't. I'm learning Python little by little, because I want to be able to automate certain tasks. And so it's helpful, it's beneficial, it'll take you far. I'm noticing that a lot of jobs that I look at, they're saying, hey, have some type of knowledge of scripting and being able to utilize these programming languages, to automate tasks. So definitely do it. If that's your passion, run with it. But you don't have to be an expert at it to pivot into the industry. And I've noticed that the roles that I've moved into, it hasn't been used extremely. I'm sure there are some engineers who do use it quite a bit, but most of the time, once you build out those little scripts, then you can use them to automate tasks, and you have them in your playbook, and so it's not a lot of heavy programming that's required.
So, what are some skills or qualities that you feel like would be beneficial for, people to have when they're coming into cybersecurity? And specifically, how can young girls learn those skills?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I would say for me, it was high problem solving, and you mentioned this in the beginning, and analytical skills. Another thing is if you have leadership skills, great. And if you can take initiative, that's huge, because I said a lot of my role is figure it out. So you definitely have to be able to take initiative. You can't always wait on someone. So those leadership skills and the ability to take initiative is huge. What I noticed is that I took some of these courses when I was in middle school, high school. They had like national honor societies that you can join, right? Little leadership groups that you can join. You can even build a club at your school or your program that helps to build communication skills and being able to, speak before different people. So public speaking skills, And those are huge to be able to transfer into your role. Those are huge. So that's what I would definitely say. Get a strong grasp on critical thinking, problem solving, and analytical skills, being able to figure out things when you don't know how, taking that initiative, having strong leadership and communicable skills.
And I feel like those skills, while they're very great to have in cybersecurity, can be used for many other things as well. And being able to have great communication skills, being able to problem solve or think analytically and logically, they come in handy in a multitude of things.
Absolutely. And if you're a curious individual, which has a big, correlation to taking initiative, thinking outside the box, you will go and you'll, like, some of these tools that you're introduced to, you'll just go and figure out how to use them. A lot of times they have free subscriptions that you can get and learn how to use some of these tools that they're actually using on jobs. So being curious is key as well.
So then here's a kind of a thinking question. What would you like your lasting impact to be?
I would say that my lasting impact would be to what has happened for me to be able to replicate that for others. So in education, they always say no child left behind, right? So being able to go back and give back to others, and making sure that I'm giving back as the opportunity was given and afforded to me. And having that as a lasting impact. Honestly, that's huge as a part of my legacy. That's the reason I'm doing it. I would say primarily because, my children, I want them to see that example, and show them that it's possible, that something that you didn't see growing up in your community. I didn't see anyone around me in tech. I didn't see anyone around me in cybersecurity. No one was interested in those. To know that, hey, you can do it. It's possible. You may think that it's far above you. That's what I thought growing up, but it's not too far above you. It just takes just confidence, being passionate about something, and just doing it. Even if you don't know how to do it, look for ways to where you can learn. Find someone. There's mentors, there's coaches out there that will help you. And so that's probably the legacy, and it is the legacy that I want to leave, being able to give back and help others to know, hey, you're able to reach that potential as well, just like I did. So
That is absolutely fantastic. I love that. Unfortunately, we are almost out of time, so I would like to ask one last question. What is some advice that you would give to all the young people that are watching this video?
thank you for asking that. So I would say, don't wait. Do something, even if it's small. I think when I was younger, I kind of waited on people to direct me. Don't wait. Take initiative. There's little things that you can do now. You can plug into clubs. This initiative is amazing. Don't wait for someone to show you the steps. Go out and try to look for it on your own. And don't wait. Don't wait to put together a portfolio. Start doing it when you're young, because then you're so much more ahead when you get to that point. Don't wait to get involved in a community and to get involved with organizations. Do it now. Don't wait to plan for potential, if you want to do college, to pivot into cybersecurity or whatever your plan is. Don't wait for it. So start taking steps now towards it. And I would say the number one advice I would give is find a mentor, find a coach. There's so many out there that want to do it and they're willing to do it. So find someone to help you. And I'm always available as well.
Thank you. That's some great advice. You never know what you can do or what opportunities you can take advantage of until you take that first step. So, Janice, again, thank you so much for being here with us today. We appreciate it. And again, thank you.
Yes, my pleasure completely. Again, it was an honor. And I just want to show my About Me slide whenever the opportunity is right. So let me know when.
Yeah, you can definitely put it up now.
Perfect. And I said about me, but actually it's just my contact information. So my name here, I'm a security engineer, and then my organization, Teach2Geek, that I started shortly after pivoting into the industry. And so that information is on the screen as well. And then my LinkedIn profile, you can find me, Janice F. Sanders on LinkedIn. And again, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.